Howdy! I went on holiday recently, and as is customary for big YouTube celebrities like me, I need to show you some of my awesome holiday pictures. That way you can connect with me on a personal level and see what a down-to-earth and genuine guy I am. Here's me spending a little bit of QT with QT. We're good friends, you know, YouTube celebrities, you know, we kind of get to be friends with people like Quentin Tarantino. Oh, this one is my favorite. Isn't the moon beautiful? While I was away, a few of you sent me messages asking for help with content ID and copyright fair use and all that stuff. So I figured, since I've already circumnavigated these digital waters like a 21st century Christopher Columbus, I would help.
Magellan!
What?
Magellan circumnavigated the globe, not Columbus.
Of course he did. Everybody knows that. Americans even have a whole holiday devoted to just that. Slave Labor Day.
It's called Labor Day, you moron, and it's the wrong holiday. You're thinking of Columbus Day.
Yeah, right. The date when Christopher Columbus circumnavigated the globe in order to spread capitalism's greatest asset, slavery.
Labor Day is the celebration of workers' rights. Columbus Day is the celebration of when Columbus discovered America, not when he circumnavigated, because he didn't do it.
No way. I've got to Google this because this just seems like complete bullshit. I mean...
No, it seems like you're wasting a lot of their time.
Who?
The people watching the video you're in the middle of shooting, you moron.
Oh. I guess you're right. Where was I?
You were right up.
Not you. You can disappear. Go on, go. Since I've already circumnavigated these digital waters like a 21st century Magellan, I figured why not create a series of videos teaching you to do just that. So that's what this is. This is part one in a series of videos in which I'm going to talk about copyright on YouTube. I'm going to talk about copyright in general, content ID, how the YouTube content ID system works, how to navigate it, what to do when someone makes a claim on your video, and most importantly, what to do when someone makes a manual claim, because I'm going to be honest, you're going to get a lot of manual claims. There just ain't no way to avoid it, so you can't rely on avoiding claims. I'll teach you how to deal with claims, because nobody else seems to want to do that. But before I can teach you all of that stuff, I have to first teach you about fair use. So why am I talking about this? Well, it's something that every YouTuber worries about. Even big YouTubers like PewDiePie or JonTron, who get millions of views per video and have millions of subscribers, are terrified of fighting copyright claims because it could damage their channel, which is a real risk, but it's something we'll get to later. So I'm going to assume that everybody watching this video already knows what copyright is, why it exists, and why it's necessary. It is necessary. Just in case you don't know any of these things, then I'm going to recommend this video by Captain Christian, in which he uses George Romero's Night of the Living Dead as his case study, and it's very interesting, it's well worth a watch. There's going to be a clickable link at the end of this video, and there's also a link in my description below. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't go watching that video now. Watch this video first. Geez, you have a short attention span. Most people have heard of fair use, but not many people know what it actually is. It's a provision within copyright law which allows an individual or a group to use copyrighted material without permission of the copyright holder and without paying any money for a license fee. Sounds pretty awesome, right? But it does come with some restrictions. Let me be clear about something. I can't tell you whether or not your video qualifies as fair use. The law is intentionally vague and ambiguous on this subject in order to allow judges room for interpretation so that they can make a case-by-case judgment and not have to follow a rigid rule. Anyone who tells you that they know for definite whether your video or another video is fair use or isn't fair use is a liar. Only a judge can tell you. Not even me. Through reading a massive amount of case judgments and speaking to a sitting judge, and also with a copyright lawyer, I've been able to peddle together some guidelines and helpful hints and tips to help you stay the right side of the law. And just to prove that I put my money where my mouth is, I tested all of this stuff on my own channel a few months ago in one of my Sunday vlogs, in which I challenged some erroneous claims on my channel, at the risk of losing everything. So you can believe me when I say that what I'm telling you isn't bullshit, it's tested. So a video can be determined to be fair use if it fits into one of the following 4 categories. This is what I call stage 1 of the fair use system. If you make it through stage 1, you progress to stage 2. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So those categories are educational, critique, parody, and transformative. But what exactly are those things? Let's find out. Educational speaks for itself, so I'm not going to delve into that. Parody is when you take the original material and mock something using that framework. Remember when I mentioned that JonTron was too scared to fight his quarter? This video is him singing a song called You Are Not a Gnome. It's an obvious mock of the Michael Jackson song You're Not Alone. The lyrics have all been changed and the music arrangement is different, but it retains the sound of the original. This, not the coffee, this is what parody sounds like. For an example of what parody looks like, just take a look at the movie Spaceballs, which uses Star Wars and the framework of science fiction in general to mock Star Wars and science fiction in general. Both of these two things are perfect examples of parody in action. Critique and transformative are a little bit different because they contain some elements that we have to consider. I call these the 3 pillars of fair use, but we'll get to that in a second. Critique is the assessment of both the positive and negative aspects of any given thing. So people like Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, and myself are all critiquing movies when we review them. All these dickheads don't qualify as fair use because they're not critiquing anything. They're simply reacting to it and then giving an opinion. And contrary to popular belief, opinion is not critique. It's part of critique, but opinion alone is not critique. Saying bad thing bad is just opinion. Saying how and why bad thing bad and how it can be fixed, that's critique. And finally, there's transformative. This is when we provide deeper meaning or context to something which is not explicitly obvious when viewing, reading, or hearing the thing by itself. People like the nerd writer Patrick H. Willems and myself are all performing transformative analysis when we create video essays. Quick myth bust. Changing the physical properties of a video, like shrinking it or changing the opacity, is transformative. No, it isn't. Actually, it's only considered transformative from a legal perspective when we're actually changing the context or creating deeper meaning to the piece of media. So simply reducing the opacity or changing the size of the video or making it black and white or upside down, left to right, does nothing in legal sense. It does not make it a fair use video. However, editing multiple videos to go all in one go and tell a different story, like what Slicer does with his videos about Marvel and other comic book movies, is transformative because it does change the context of the videos. So your video neatly fits into one of those 4 categories and is very easily defined. Hooray! Yes? No, you're not fair use yet, you just passed stage 1. Now we go on to stage 2, but before we can do that, a word from our sponsors. Are you in a constant state of panic and worry about people stealing your data like this chump? Do you secretly fear your employer finding out which websites you visit while using the company Wi-Fi? Well, fear no more, because with our new VPN software, nobody will be able to track your data or know which websites you visit at work. Our encryption software is so sophisticated, the only way your boss can catch you is if he's looking over your shoulder. Just visit www.ipromiseidon'tjerkoffinthebogs@work.com and enter code HENTAI at the checkout to get a 110% discount. And that's a great price. Making sure your video is fair use is a definite balancing act, which requires you to have a foot on at least 2 of the 3 pillars, but ideally you want to be on all 3. These pillars are time, relevance, and profit. If I don't make any profit from my video and I credit the original owner, it's fair use. Wrong. Totally wrong. Crediting the owner is a nice gesture and you should do it, but it doesn't protect you under fair use. A key aspect of copyright infringement is whether or not you are reducing the original owner's ability to make a profit from their copyrighted material. So if you're using their material in your video or your song or your story, and you've not changed it in the slightest, then you are infringing their copyright, because in effect, your video, song, or book can be a substitute for theirs. Which reminds me. Only using short clips makes it fair use. Very common misconception. It can be copyright infringement for even 1 second of the material to be used. Length is an aspect of fair use, but short clips does not a fair use video make. For example, there are many YouTube channels that simply use 2 or 3 minute clips of popular movies as their basis. This is 100% copyright infringement. In short, if your video is the exact same as any portion of the original, then a court will say that you're reducing the original's ability to make a profit, as those people can just watch your video instead of watching the original. The next one is time. More specifically, the amount of copyrighted material which features inside your video and the amount of that copyrighted material that you use. The often spoken general rule is never use more than you need to make your point. So the video I use in a video essay is edited into much smaller pieces between 5 and 10 seconds, because each edited clip is a visual reference to what I'm saying in the audio. And since no one single point that I'm making will ever be longer than 5 to 10 seconds, I'll never need to use more than 10 seconds of continuous video. There are very rare exceptions, like this video by Nerdwriter, in which he's talking about how a fight scene is constructed and shot. But this is incredibly rare. If you sat there thinking that you do need to use longer clips, then it just means you're either lazy or you're a bad writer. Sorry, but it's the truth. Go back and rewrite your script using the method I'll teach you when we're talking about the next pillar. But it's not just about how much copyrighted material you use, it's about how much copyrighted material you continuously use from one single source. For example, those reaction videos that I referred to before, 100% of their video is copyrighted material. So if they found themselves in a court of law defending themselves, it would very likely not be covered under fair use, since they're not changing it, they're not adding to it, and they're actually using 100% of the copyrighted material from one single source. This video of mine, in which I discuss dialogue writing techniques, is also 100% comprised of copyrighted material. But no one source is significant. It's 30 or 40 different sources, each contributing about 1 or 2% towards the total runtime of my video. So my defense of fair use in court is much stronger than the clip channels. I'd probably be fine with this in court, in addition to other factors. For another example, look at this video from Potato Reviews. It features footage from one source, but it's intercut with completely original footage of his own. So again, the overall percentage of his video, which is comprised of copyrighted material from one source, is much lower. So his fair use defense would be much stronger. Shoehorned in with the idea of time is dependence. You should be able to answer the following question. If I take away the copyrighted material from my video, does my video still work? If the answer is no, you're not fair use. It's really that simple. There's a little bit of crossover now, so you're going to have to bear with me for a moment. But the idea of relevance is pretty self-explanatory, but in the context of fair use defenses, what this basically means is that whatever video, audio, images that you're using should be relevant to whatever the topic of discussion is. For example, let's say a documentary talks about how Slash plays the guitar while he's on stage with Guns N' Roses. The documentary can only show footage of him playing for as long as they're talking about how he plays. This is making the visual relevant to the discussion, and it also provides deeper insight into the clip itself. You might have seen some YouTubers sometimes play a rolling video of something for 5 minutes while they talk. That's not fair use. Now, I'll teach you a foolproof method to make sure that anytime you use copyrighted video, it's fair use. I spent some time in academia, and they love to make you write essays. The method they teach to write essays is very simple. Whenever you make a claim or whenever you have a point that you need to make, you have to provide a reference to back up your claim or point, someone else's information, basically to prove that you're not making this shit up on the spot. For example, if I were to say that Donald Trump once built a giant wall around his golf course in Scotland and then billed the local residents for the construction of that wall, yeah, it's not so different from today. Anyway, if I said that, then I'd have to provide a reference for it like this to state where I got the information from, so you know I'm not talking out my ass. What I want you to do is to take the same approach with a video essay, but slightly different. So whatever you're talking about in your audio, you need to provide a visual reference for that. So each video clip that you use is a video reference to the thing that you're talking about. This way, the reference clip that you're using is being given deeper meaning and changing the context because of the audio that it's linked to. Simple. In this video, I'm talking about how when you write dialogue, you should respect the character and try to keep their dialogue and actions in keeping with the character's history. And the video shows Luke Skywalker behaving in a fashion which was never seen in a Star Wars movie before. So the video is a reference to the actual point that I'm making. Relevance is a very important aspect of a fair use defense, because when the video is not relevant to the subject of the scene or audio, it highlights that it's very potentially a frivolous use. In with the theme of relevance is the idea that your use of any copyrighted material should always provide deeper meaning or context to that copyrighted material. This demonstrates that your video is not a replacement for the original, it's a companion piece for the original. And when we talk about fair use defenses in a later video, you're going to see how all this strengthens your case for a fair use defense.
That was a lot of information.
Yeah, I guess it was. Okay, let's quickly recap. Stage 1. You must be able to define your video or use of the copyrighted material into one of these categories. If you're struggling to place it into a category, it's very likely that you're not using the material in a fair use way. Stage 2. Your video needs to be sticking to at least 2 of the 3 pillars of fair use, ideally all 3. It cannot impede on the original's ability to make money, and it cannot be a substitute for the original. It must only use as much of the copyrighted material as is necessary to back up the current point your video is trying to make, and it must only use the copyrighted material in a way which is relevant to the point your video is currently making. And that's how fair use works. I know this video has been long, so I genuinely thank you for sticking around this long, and congratulations if you did make it this far into the video. You've genuinely made yourself a better YouTuber. It'll make it easier for you to defend fair use claims when we talk about those in a future video. Speaking of which, the next video I do about this topic is going to be talking about how to navigate your way around the YouTube Content ID system. That's probably going to be somewhere around April time. Until then, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you in a future video.